The 15-Point Plan is part of the Win Make Give podcast network.
Welcome to the 15-Point Plan. Chad Himes here, joined by, well, it's not really an adjective, so I can't describe you as other than just being a xenial person, Jillene Snell.
Okay.
So thanks for joining us here, and I'll let you figure out what No, I won't make the whole audience go Google it and all that stuff. It means you're warm, you're welcoming, and hospitable type person. Yes, it's spelled with an X. I had to keep going. Jillene, it's a pleasure to be here with you again today.
Thank you.
Jillene, we are talking about hydration, and we are wrapping up the section of hydration talking about
Electrolytes today.
Ooh, that's a big fancy word. We hear a lot. What are these electrolytes? Because people hear the word because I think they see Pedialyte commercials, but they don't know much else about electrolytes. So talk to us about them.
Yeah, so electrolytes are minerals that circulate in our blood, and they're minerals like sodium, calcium, potassium, and of course, they're vital to so many key functions in the body. What's interesting is that electrolytes are chemicals that conduct electricity when they're mixed with water.
Well, that's interesting since our body's made up of so much water.
Right. And
Okay.
they regulate nerve and muscle function. They hydrate the body, balance blood acidity and pressure, and help rebuild damaged tissue.
So it sounds pretty important, these electrolyte things, as you say, sodium, calcium, potassium, various minerals that our body needs to conduct that electricity, which is what makes nerves and muscles actually move and do their things.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we want to have electrolytes in our system at all times. Jillene, there are going to be times, though, in life when we might be depleted or have an electrolyte imbalance or something like that. How do I know if I'm out of balance with my electrolytes?
Well, you might not actually have symptoms, but some of the more obvious symptoms would be like if you experience dizziness or muscle cramping. I think muscle cramping is actually a big one. Like if you have that muscle twitch, it might be that you're missing hydration, electrolytes, irregular heartbeat, because your heart's a muscle.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's probably the most important one we got.
And the one that could be the biggest one of all is mental confusion.
You suffering that from right now?
Exactly.
You need to have a little drink with some
Let
electrolytes
me take a
in it?
sip.
All right, there you go. Right, now we want everyone to understand, we say an electrolyte imbalance because you can actually go too far the other way. You can actually OD on electrolytes, and I don't mean that in a disastrous way, but you can actually throw your body out of whack by having too many. So stop drinking those electrolyte powders all day long thinking it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Yes, you can overload your body. And as Jillene had said as she went through it, that irregular heartbeat, that heart is probably the most important muscle in our body.
Right.
And yes, you don't want cramps happening in that muscle.
No.
That would be a bad place to have cramps.
Yeah, and a sign for us is just if we feel that irregular heartbeat, like we can say, okay, what should we do to rehydrate with electrolytes at that point? That would be a really good starting point.
Okay, let's get a little scientific-y and let's get into, so what do electrolytes actually do within our body, Jillene, that makes them worthwhile?
They regulate the fluid levels in our blood plasma and in our body.
Okay.
They keep the pH of our blood in a normal range. And what's that range, Chad?
It's 7.35 to 7.45. So for those of you who have a pool or a hot tub and you're dipping those little strips in your pool and your hot tub and you're looking and you're saying, oh, I got to add a little bit of this, I got to add a little bit of that, that's your body. You just don't get to stick that little stick in you and say, oh, I'm off by just this. You're going to have to learn how to feel it, keeping that pH balance.
If we
just
did
right.
want to test, just for curiosity's sake, what would we do to test?
Well, blood test.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd go to a doctor, you'd go to somebody and it's not like you could spit on something and say, hey, where's I'm sure someone will come out with something like that.
And we've talked about this before on the 15-Point Plan podcast, where when you're at the doctor and you're getting a panel done, actually ask for it, be your own advocate.
Yes.
And that's one that you could ask for.
Absolutely. You find out where you are with these important supplements that are in your body, which we'll get to. Electrolytes are found on that list of supplements that we like to talk about. Okay, so what else do these electrolytes do for us?
They transmit nerve signals from the heart, muscle, and nerve cells to other cells.
Okay, so that electrical impulse, they're talking all over the place. Okay,
helping them the cells speak to other cells
Right.
and nerves.
Okay.
Help blood to clot.
Well,
that's a big one.
Kind of important. Yeah.
Yeah. And then help to build new tissue, which I feel like after my workouts this week, I have some breakdown. And so extra electrolytes, just because my exercise increased, I needed more to rebuild that tissue.
Good for you. I had a workout the other day that it almost beat me. I got on the bike, went too long on the bike. I had not prepared.
Yeah.
Didn't eat properly in advance and load up the electrolytes or the carbs that are needed in the system. And yes, I got the pleasure of bonking. All right, but Jillene, most importantly, electrolytes enable muscle contractions, right? We need our muscles to contract. And as we've already kind of talked about, that most important muscle contracting would be your heartbeat.
Right.
Got to make sure it's happening. So if you're low or way out of whack high on the electrolyte level in your body, and you don't have that pH of your blood, you're going to feel it going through your system. You will probably know. Okay, so how do we throw our electrolytes out of whack, Jillene? What are some of those issues or causes that will create issues for us?
Right. So if we're sick and we're losing fluids, like we're vomiting or we have diarrhea, we're excessively sweating because we have a fever, we're losing fluids from our body, maybe we're not eating or drinking enough, like if we're on some sort of a diet or intermittent fasting could affect that.
Absolutely huge.
So that's a big one in today's world because intermittent fasting is a big strategy for weight maintenance and health. So we want to really look at if we're getting enough electrolytes while we're doing intermittent fasting. It can cause chronic respiratory problems, such as, what would you say that word is?
Emphysema.
Emphysema. Yep. Higher than normal blood pH, which we just talked about.
Yep. If we're taking things, Jillene, like steroids or diuretics or laxatives, we're going to come back to what you had talked about at the beginning here with losing a lot of those fluids, right? Taking a laxative is going to do what to it, right? It's going to help flush out the system, and all of a sudden we're going to be losing the levels of electrolytes that we need to keep that balance just right within our body. So this is why, and Jillene and I don't agree on everything, and we've talked about this plenty of times. This is why parents, when I was a parent of a younger child and your kid was having those symptoms of vomiting or diarrhea or a fever or sweating, what was the lesson we were taught as parents? Put some Pedialyte in their sippy cup and give it to them and get them drinking that, because it's going to keep their electrolytes up while they're flushing all that other stuff out of their body.
And it might be necessary for kids to get them to actually drink it. It's got sugar in it, and I'm not an advocate of anything with sugar.
No,
added sugar.
We know that. That's why you didn't get any of the brownies that I brought in for everybody today. I didn't want to tease you with that. And yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Pedialyte parents, while we're talking about it, you know it worked for your kids. Those of you who have given it to your kids, it can work for you. They've been rebranding themselves. And Jillene will roll her eyes because, and it's got sugar in it.
And I did because, well, I have a recipe for the adults for something better than Pedialyte with no added sugar.
Are you going to give that to us now, or do we have to wait?
No, let's do it now.
All right. Give me a recipe to make my own electrolyte beverage that includes no sugar but still tastes good, Jillene.
It will. It's going to have sugar, natural sugar, just no added. If you don't have these ingredients in your house, just use salt, like Himalayan salt. Put it in your water. But these ingredients will help you have a nice electrolyte drink. Okay. And that is a pinch of salt.
Pinch of salt.
A dash of lemon juice.
Oh, I love recipes like this. Pinch of salt, dash of lemon juice.
A drip of lime juice.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Some unsweetened coconut water.
Okay.
And then mixed with regular water, cold water.
Okay.
And there's your recipe that is the alternative to Pedialyte that does not
have added sugar. So basically, Jillene doesn't know how to make the drink because it's a dash and a pinch and a twist and a zest and a this and of everything, and we got no idea what it really.
It's how I make all my recipes.
It just splash this, splash that, and hope you get it just right. So that was water with some lemon juice,
lime juice, unsweetened coconut water,
and unsweetened coconut water is going to really give you that adult electrolyte beverage. And heck, if you like it, go make a gallon jug of it and keep it in the fridge, and then you don't have to keep mixing and mashing every time. Right.
But we are debunking a myth.
We are.
Today.
And what is that myth that we're going to debunk right now today?
Some of us believe that we actually need an electrolyte beverage on a daily basis maybe in place of our regular water.
So you're talking drinking that Gatorade or ordering those powders that I can pour into my water or whatever it is, but that we need some sort of ongoing electrolyte beverage.
Right. And the truth is, we get a lot of electrolytes in the food that we eat. We'll talk about that in a second. But where we really need electrolyte water or that addition of minerals is if we are at risk for like quick losses of minerals in the things that we just mentioned, like if you're sick and you're losing fluids, or we're exercising more than an hour, or we sweat heavily during exercise, or we're exposed to heat for long periods of time.
Sure.
Those are some examples of like you're out of your normal daily routine, and you might need to intentionally find those electrolytes.
Okay.
But on a day-to-day basis, we actually get electrolytes through a lot of the things that we're eating in our normal diet.
Yeah, Jillene, give me a list. We did some research on this and we got way too many things to just sit here and read them all. But pick out a few things that came off this list that we're probably eating every day that we're getting electrolytes from.
Yeah, so milk, bananas, broccoli, avocados, strawberries, watermelon, chicken, fish, turkey, raisins, spinach. There's a lot of foods. Yogurt with electrolytes.
So if you're eating, you're probably getting electrolytes, which was one of the things we were talking about at the beginning, and you mentioned it partway through there. A lot of people use intermittent fasting as a weight loss method or maintenance system, and we're not here to talk about that today. We'll get into intermittent fasting when we get into the nutrition part and talk about it. Yet if you are doing intermittent fasting, the one thing you probably definitely need to look into is some sort of electrolyte replacement, because you're not getting it from all this food.
Yes, keep your heart healthy, right? I think that's the theme of this particular podcast, is a healthy heart. Of course, it affects all of these other things, but just watch out for some of those symptoms, especially muscle cramping or irregular heartbeat, and especially if you're intermittent fasting, and then create a plan from it.
Okay, so Jillene, before we got into this, you asked a question. You said, what happens when you go into the hospital? What's one of the first things that they usually do? And that was?
They always put an IV in the ambulance as soon as you get to the hospital.
And they're going to give you an IV drip. And what's in that bag that they're hooking up there? I mean, we're hoping they're not doing anything, right? It's just a simple
saline with salts, and
that's it,
yeah,
right? And
it's
we
very simple.
Did some research, and it's a combination of sodium chloride and water at a concentration of 9 grams of salt per liter, which
so it's
means
a higher concentration.
It's a higher concentration than what you need, but it's still 0.9%.
Right.
Right? I mean, it's almost none of it is salt. To get the fluids into your body and get you replaced, what we want you to understand is a lot of people think that the muscle cramps that we have are just because of magnesium or potassium, because we've always heard, well, just have a banana. Just have a banana.
Yep.
Just have a banana. Most of the time, it's actually the salt that we actually have lost through sweat. That's causing that problem with the electricity firing within our body. So sometimes you need to just take a bottle of water, a glass of water, and just like you said, pinch of salt, throw into it. That's it.
Chad, I think we're actually debunking another myth.
Oh, no.
Right? And that salt is bad. You hear it in some of the fitness books and the dietary recommendations that salt is bad.
Yes.
And it's actually not. Look what happens when you don't have enough in your body, because the salt contains these minerals that help with so much. And
we don't recommend a high salt diet. That's not what we're telling you here. But absolutely, sugars, salts, water help your body absorb the fluids and the minerals within them. Just watch those sugar levels, because too many of those beverages out there, like Gatorade, right? The sugar's way too high in there for the value that you're getting.
right.
By the way, Jillene, do you know where the name Gatorade actually came from?
No, tell us.
Okay, for those of you who did not know this, and there's a very specific group of people who absolutely know it already, because you are from Florida, but it actually came from the university where the Florida Gators are. They made a beverage called Gatorade for their athletes, which then became what we all now know as Gatorade.
We're going to have so many Gator fans after this podcast.
And if we don't, that's okay, because, well, they're the Gators, right? So, hey, you choose your own team. I'll take my Ducks over your Gators any day. Folks, electrolytes matter. They're the things that keep your muscles firing. They're the things that keep your cells talking to each other. They're the things that keep your body repairing itself as it gets damaged along the way. What we want you to understand, salt, it's good at a limited capacity. Go back a few seconds there and listen to Jillene's recipe for an adult electrolyte beverage if you need one before you go out and spend all that money for something that's filled with sugar. Folks, as we wrap up hydration for you, we hope these tips have helped you move forward with an understanding of this. And we're going to be back next week as we start diving deeper into sleep. And Jillene, I'm totally going to geek out on this one because I've got so much stuff I've been gathering about sleep. Can't wait to bring it to all of you out there. Folks, join us, facebook.com/group/win-make-give, where we talk about these episodes and all of the episodes. And Jillene will even share with you her electrolyte recipe in the Facebook group. So come look for it there. And until then, we hope this episode has upped your energy and takes you to the next level.